I am making my very first ribbon skirt today. I am Red River Métis on my maternal side, and I have always wanted to make a ribbon skirt. I have been reconnecting with my culture and growing some stronger roots with it over the last decade or more, and I'm not a sewer, but I am going to try today. So let's go make a ribbon skirt together. So for this process, I did a lot of Googling and asked a lot of questions. And the very first thing that you're supposed to do is wash your fabric and shrink it. After that, it came out super wrinkly, so I had to go and get my iron and just iron out all of the little bumps and wrinkles and all of that. So I had like a nice even surface to start working on. Now for this part, I got my fabric and folded it in half so that the good sides were facing each other, and I went and got my measuring tape. Now I am not a math girly by any means, but this is kind of how you can figure out some of your measurements. So I have a 36-inch waist, and then how I have seen how to do this is you add 20, and then that gives me 46. So I divide 46 by 4, and that gives me 11 and a half. So I'm going to round to the nearest number. So my waist number is 12. So I'm going to measure 12 inches across the top. So I just got my measuring tape. I've got to 12 inches. I'm going to get a little Sharpie and make a tiny little dot at the very top. Now I didn't film this super well, but the next measurement we're going to do is the length. And how we get that measurement is we're going to get our measuring tape and put it over by where our natural waist is and drop it down to the floor, so just by your heel, and you'll get a measurement for that. So mine's 35, and I'm going to add 4 onto it, and that's going to allow some wiggle room for our waistband and such. And you can see me here, I have got my measuring tape and I've started up at the very top where I made my waist mark, and starting on that folded part of the fabric, I'm bringing it down to my length number, which is 39, and then I'm making that little dot there. And you actually want to do that on both sides of the fabric. Now to make this an A-line shape, we're going to have our bottom number next, and that's going to be your waist number that you had from before. So not like your inches of like 35 inches around your waist, but your waist number when you divided it and such. And then you're going to get that number plus 2 inches. So my bottom number is 14, so I'm just going to make a little dot there. And we're done with all the measurement part. So the next step is that we have to join a couple of these lines. So we're going to get our waist line that we did at the top, and we're going to connect it down to the bottom line. Now, if you have an actual, like, I don't know, meter stick or something, that's preferable. I couldn't find anything but this old baseboard. I don't even know where it came from, but you know what? It was long enough, so we're gonna use it. So I went and got this, and I joined up those 2 dots and got my Sharpie again and just connected them so I would be able to cut in a straight line. And we're gonna bring our baseboards or whatever else you're using down to the bottom, and we're going to connect those bottom lines together so we'll have a nice straight edge at the bottom. Now this in reality actually took me a couple of days of like getting my courage up to actually cut the fabric, because like fabric is expensive and I didn't want to mess this up, so I was really quite like nervous, but it all turned out wonderfully. But anyways, you're going to cut out your panels. So you're going to have this one panel here, and we are going to do this all over again for a second panel. But cut this panel out first, and it's a lot easier to kind of trace onto the next panel because you've got like your own little pattern that you've made for yourself. So now we get to the ribbon part. I love these ribbons, they're so pretty. So whatever ribbons you ended up choosing, you're going to start to put them onto your dress or your skirt. So I was also told as a Métis woman or female that Métis style ribbon dresses are sometimes like where you have a ribbon and then there's fabric and a ribbon, fabric, ribbon, where some First Nations communities and groups will have the ribbons stacked on top of each other. So that Anyways, that's what I've been told from my community members. So I've decided to do it in the Métis way. So I'm going to have some gaps in between my ribbons, but it also kind of made it a lot harder because everything has to be really straight that way. So anyways, as I was making these, it was going well, but then everything started to move, and I know there's got to be some sort of like real type of like fabric adhesive out there, but I didn't have that, and I didn't want to do another trip to the store and spend more money. So honestly, I went and got a glue stick, and it worked pretty okay. Was it perfect? No, but like this whole project is not about being perfect. It is just like doing this for the first time, connecting, learning, doing that all. So we're going to use a glue stick. And I also made sure that all of my ribbons were as straight as I could make them. And I did try my very best to have 2 inches between each one of the ribbons. Okay, so here's my issue. I have tried my very, very best to try and get my grandmother's sewing machine fixed. I cannot do it. I don't have the skills to do it. And I've asked other people as well who know a lot more than me, and they haven't really been able to fix it either. It's just really old and it hasn't been used for a very long time. So I very reluctantly bought a new sewing machine, and I didn't want to do that because I don't like to spend money. But I've bought it and it's coming today, so I'm very excited about that. It's here. So after getting everything set up and threaded, I went and got all of my different threads and everything for my ribbons, and I started to sew those on. So I just started with the first one, and I was told to do a zigzag stitch. It was a little bit tricky, but I really tried. If you see that little line on my little, like, I don't even know what it's called, like the head of, or the foot? I don't know. Looks like a foot. Anyways, I tried to have it one needle go into the fabric and one go into the ribbon, so it was really secure. So I did the zigzag stitch on the one side, and then I went down the other side of the ribbon. It kind of allows it to have more movement and everything, rather it being really stuck to the fabric. So the zigzag stitch worked perfectly, and I did that for the other ribbon colors. But then, of course, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't make sure that the little extra taggy bits at the end were fully flipped over, and of course I sewed through one. But then I was finally able to do that, and I had completed one whole panel, and I'm so happy about this. So once you've done one panel, you're going to do the exact same thing to create 2 panels. And once you have done that, it's kind of like the moment of truth, and also terrifying to see if the ribbons match up. And mine kind of did and kind of didn't, but you know what? I think they look great. Now next I went to the bottom of each panel, and I just did a very simple straight stitch to kind of like hem it and make sure it doesn't fray. I don't know if I'm supposed to do something fancier, but that's what I did. And then I combined both of the panels together, and I did another zigzag stitch to sew them together, and just really hope that everything turned out well, and make sure that those extra little bits of ribbon are on the other side. And now comes the elastic part. The lady at the fabric store that said this was the very best one to get because it doesn't roll. It seems really sturdy, so I've got that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our iron out again, and we're going to iron out kind of like a little tunnel for the elastic to go through. So I'm just ironing down like a little seam that's about like 2 or 3 centimeters, and that's going to be the first little bit of our tunnel. And then you're going to do the other side. And then once that's done, put your elastic in and then flip it down. And then you're going to get your iron again and go over it. You can't see it, but I did take the elastic out for this. I don't know if you can like iron elastic. So once you've ironed all of those folds down, you're going to get your sewing machine again and just do another easy straight stitch to create that little tunnel, and you can see that here. So go and get a safety pin, put it on the end of that elastic, and shove it through that tunnel. And I sure hope that it is super easy for you, because it was not for me. Really find the tightness that you want for that waistband of yours, and go and sew the elastic over a couple of times. And add magical, wonderful sound effects. And you've made your ribbon skirt. I love this. I have wanted to make one of these for ages, and I am so happy that I have. I kind of have these like this sense of belonging and more connection to the ancestors that I had from before and all my relatives that I've seen with ribbon skirts, and now I finally have my own. And I hope that you've been able to follow along with this video so that you can easily create your own ribbon skirt yourself. And if you have liked this video, found it helpful, please hit that like button or share it with someone. And I will see you next time. Bye!